Hello, my favorite students. We are going to be doing Chapter 2, Section 3 together, percent proportion. And you're going to have to listen really carefully when we do some of these problems, because you're going to have to figure out how to set them up yourself in a proportion. And we need to really think about, is our answer reasonable? Does it make sense? And if you are checking, then you're all good. So let's see how it goes. We can write a proportion to find a percent. We're going to be working with 3 different ways how to find proportions, or how to find percents. As we wrote above in the previous lesson, a percent is a part of a whole. And as we've talked about many times, it's also a number out of 100 by definition. A number out of 100. Set these 2 ratios equal to each other and you have a proportion. So it's a part of a whole, it's equal to a number out of 100, a percent. So this is our percent. And I'm going to give you a little help here, something we can add to this. We are going to see the words is and of frequently. Is always refers to the part and of refers to the whole. This will help us set up the problems. So let's begin. What percent of $15 is $9? Substitute the numbers into the appropriate parts of the proportion and solve using the easiest method. So we haven't done all these methods in class together. We're not going to do all of them right now. We will do them more in class together, but we will get through these ones today in the notes. Okay, so here's what I'm looking for. What percent? That is the thing that is missing. That tells me right away, oh good. I know that I don't know the number that is always over 100. I always put my percent on the right-hand side, a number over 100, and what's missing is the percent. So that identifies my variable. This is my unknown. So now let's figure out where the 15 and the 9 go. I want my part to be the numerator and my whole to be the denominator. So I notice the words is comes before 9 and of comes before 15. That gives me some hints. Now, the huge majority of the time, but not all the time, it's the smaller number over the larger number, right? The part over the whole. But sometimes you can have questions where it's asking you for a percent that's more than 100. It might be a bigger number in the numerator, but not this time. So, again, most of the time, our smaller number is the part, and the bigger number is the whole. So 9 out of 15 is what percent, is what this proportion says. So let's see if we can solve this mentally. I'm going to rewrite it. 9/15 equals x over 100. So we've talked about how we reduce all the time. I can simplify this fraction, 9/15. They're both divisible by 3, so this will be 3 over 5. Let me rewrite this whole proportion. 3/5 equals x over 100. And mentally, we can see how we can get the answer. How do I get from 5 to 100? Multiply by 20. The same is true for the numerator. And basically, mentally, I can find this answer. 3 times 20 is 60. So like I said before, we always need to check to see if our answer sounds reasonable. Always go back to the question. What percent of 15 is 9? I'm looking for a percent, so I need to write my 60 as a percent. Does this sound reasonable? That 9 is 60% of 15. Yep, sounds reasonable. One way to check is that half of 15 would be 7.5. So a little more than that, 60%. Yep, 9 sounds reasonable. Yep. Okay, let's move on. Let's see how the next question will go. What number is 40% of 120? I notice right away, this makes me happy. Whenever I see the percent in the problem, I know that that number is going to go over 100. So right away, 40 over 100. Again, I always write my percent on the right-hand side. Now I need to identify, is the 120 the part or the whole? I do see the word of. That gives me a clue. And it is true that I am looking for a part, only 40% of 120. So that is my whole, and I don't know the part. So I just like to reword the question a lot to make sure it makes sense. All right, I'm going to rewrite this and see if, again, I can do some reducing and simplifying to help me get this answer. The method that I will teach you in class is cross products, but we'll do that together. In the meantime, we'll do other methods. So I do see that well, obviously I can't go from 100 to 120 by multiplying by any whole number. So I do notice, though, I can reduce this to 4/10. And 10 goes evenly into 120. So let's try it mentally this way. Now, of course, I could reduce 4/10 more to 2/5, and that would also work. How do I get from 10 to 120? I multiply by 12. Do the same in the numerator. A reminder that this always needs to be a relationship of multiplication or division, never addition or subtraction. So 4 times 12 is 48. Let me go back to the question and see if my answer seems reasonable. So what number is 40% of 120? 48. Sounds about right. Another way to check again is to say, well, what would 50%, half of 120 be? Half is 60. So I'm looking for a number that's 10% less, a little bit less than 60. Yep, 48 definitely sounds reasonable. On to the next one. 40% of what number is 26? I notice I have a percent. I say, yay, I like that because it tells me right away what one of these missing numbers is. 40 over 100 again. It just happens to be 40% again. Of what number is 26? So 40% of some bigger number is 26. 26 is my part. I see that word is. And the of is what's missing. That is my unknown. Let's do a little simplifying again and see what we can work with here. 26 over x equals 40 over 100. How will this one work? How about I reduce 40 over 100 all the way to 2/5? They're both divisible by 20. Now I see I can get from 2 to 26 by multiplying by 13. And I'll do the same for the denominator. Now this doesn't always work, but again, we're going to practice other ways in class that will always work, called cross products. 5 times 13 is 65. Let's see if my answer sounds reasonable. 40% of 65 is 26. Yeah, a little less than half. Half, or 50%, of 65. If I divide that in half, I'd get 32.5. So a little less than 50%, 40%, is that 26? Yep, sounds reasonable. All right, notice as we look back over these three problems, each of them had a different missing value. So our x was in the left-hand denominator, it was in the left-hand numerator, and it was in the right-hand numerator. It could never be down here because this is always our 100. So we practiced 3 different problems and our variable was in 3 different places. Turn the page to try a few more problems. Now here's what I'm going to ask you to do. We have 3 problems. I want you to stop the video and practice first just setting up these proportions. So turn it off, and when you think you have all 3 set up correctly, turn it back on and we will check. Okay, welcome back now for the check. I see the question, what percent? Percent is always the number over 100. So there's my unknown. Of 25, what percent of 25 of this bigger number is 20? 20 is the part and 25 is the whole. So give yourself a pat on the back if you got that one right. Let's check the next one. I see 12%. I always get excited with that because that tells me that's 12 over 100. One of my unknowns has been decided. 12% of 85 is what number? Well, I know I'm looking for the part. I don't know the part out of the whole 85. And again, we see that word of as a clue, and is my unknown from my numerator. And the third one, 84 is, now the is isn't always in front of, sometimes it's right after. 84 is 75% of what number? So 75 goes over 100. 84 is my part, and I'm looking for that larger number. That is my unknown. Alright, now I would like you, if you think you can, to pause the video and try to solve number 1 and number 3 on your own. Number 2 we will do in class. But number 1 and 3, try it on your own if you think you can. Otherwise, you can just follow along and see how I do it. I see that I can do number 1 mentally. How do I get from 25 to 100? Multiply by 4. That one works nicely. So x is 80. Now I need to go back to the problem. It's asking me for a percent, so I need to make sure I'm writing my answer as a percent. Is 20 80% of 25? Absolutely. Sounds reasonable. Number 3. I know that I can't get from 75 to 84 by multiplying by any whole number, but I can reduce this. They're both divisible by 25. This is equal to 3/4. Can I get from 3 to 84 by multiplying? Remember that rule, seeing if a number is divisible by 3, I could add 8 plus 4 and get 12. And 12 is divisible by 3, which means that 84 is divisible by 3. So if I divide 84 by 3, what do I get? 28. If I multiply 3 by 28, I can get to 84. So do the same for the denominator to get my answer. I got 112. Does that seem reasonable? 84 is 75% of 112. Sure, 3/4 of it, it sounds reasonable. If my answer was, let's say, 11.2, then that would be a big clue that, wait a minute, I did something wrong. That's not reasonable. Okay, that is it for now. It is a good idea to review this. Make sure that you can set up each proportion correctly. The part over the whole equals the number over 100, the percent over 100, and is over of helps as well. Number 2 we will do in class. See you soon!